Before I forget to do that. And for those of you who haven't seen the newest Zoom feature where it asks you to consent to it being recording, that'll be a new experience for you. So good day, everyone, and welcome to Ready, Set, Recruit. This is a Delta Sig program that has been developed exclusively for our senior vice presidents. My name is Tyler Havens, and I serve the fraternity as the Director of Chapter Services, and I will be your lead facilitator for this program. I do have a couple of housekeeping items that I wanted to share before we get started. During the large group sessions, we will primarily use the chat feature for questions and comments. Participants will not have the ability to unmute themselves. You can also use the raise hand function located in the participant list. So don't forget to utilize that document that you were all sent that has that was an attachment to your login information. We ask that if you are able during your small group sections, interactive portions of the programs, that you do have your cameras on. We are going to share, and we are going to work together in trying to build your recruitment programs going into the academic year. This session is going to be recorded and available on dsp.org for future referencing. Additionally, if you haven't noticed, live transcript has been enabled for all participants. If you find this feature to be distracting, you can turn it off by clicking on the live transcript button and checking hide subtitle. If you haven't updated to the most recent version of Zoom, you may not be affected. And so with that, I am going to introduce our team of facilitators, all sorts of fancy graphics here. All right, so along with me, I have, as small group facilitators, our chapter consulting team. With me is senior consultant for chapter development, Jasmine Flores, educational leadership consultant, Sarah Earl, and also educational and leadership consultant, Aaron Rivera. These three individuals are going to be working with you throughout the curriculum, more specifically in your small groups, by putting the information that is shared in the large group and shared with each other into action. Okay. A little bit about our format for today. We're going to follow what's called an institutional format, meaning that each session, large group and small group, will build up on each other. As you're working in your small groups, you may hear your facilitator ask you to pause or hold that thought. This is going to indicate that you're headed down the right path. However, you're thinking just a little bit ahead of the curriculum. That's a great thing. But we also want to ensure that you and others don't miss a step along the way. You can see our agenda on the screen. Our large group sessions are going to introduce the 3 C's of recruitment: communication, which is that pre-planning and passive recruitment; connection, which is meeting potential recruits and providing them the information they need to decide to join; and commitment, the buy-in for your chapter members to land those recruits. In between each one of these C's is where your small group and our consulting team can help you develop plans to put all of those into action. You will be with your same small groups and facilitators for each small group session. And during the small group sessions, you will also have a quick break because we know it's a lot to be in front of your computer for this whole time. Before we dig into our curriculum, I do want to share a little bit about how our Delta Sig chapters fared during the 2021 academic year. So let's start with some of these trends and a little bit of bad news. We did see an overall decrease in our number of initiates during the academic year. As chapters were figuring out how to recruit virtually and potential pledges were hesitant to join any student organization while navigating their new environment, we did see a large dip in the fall term. Our chapters rebounded, however, in the spring term and only had a 9% deficit during that term. So that's the bad news. But here comes some really amazing news for the fraternity. We saw our highest retention rate recorded ever in Delta Sigma Pi history. We saw 94% of our pledges to initiates retained. And we have seen a steady improvement, and we just made a huge jump in the fall retention numbers in the spring 2020 semester. What this tells us is that our chapters were finding ways to engage and provide value to the collegiate experience of our members. And you might be asking, why is Tyler talking about retention numbers? And members we already have. Well, and especially since we're supposed to be talking about recruitment and bringing in new members. Retention is important for this reason. While new members are the lifeblood of any organization, if you don't provide value to the experience of those initiated, they are no longer going to want to associate with the chapter, and you'll have to work that much harder to attract new members. The bottom line is many hands are going to lead to short work. And I want to highlight a few of our chapter successes. You saw that the fraternity was running a deficit during the last academic year, and it's specifically during the fall 2020 term. Even through the pandemic challenge, we had schools who had greater success working in the virtual recruiting environment than they typically had during a fall recruitment. And they will probably take some of those lessons that they learned recruiting virtually into the live recruitment period. So St. Mary's University is a small private institution with a business enrollment of approximately 660 students and a chapter size of about 40. During the fall 2019 term, Lambda Upsilon had 5 initiates. They tripled their number to 15 during fall 2020. University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota is a mid-sized private institution with a business enrollment of approximately 4,000 students and a chapter size of about 94. Utah saw an increase of 67%, having 13 pledges in the fall of 2019, and then up to 21 for the fall of 2020. University of Hawaii at Hilo is a small public institution with a business school enrollment, about 380 students, and a chapter size of 35. And Lambda Psi doubled their 11 pledges from fall 2019 to 22 in fall of 2020. University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, obviously a large public institution with a business school enrollment of about 6,200 students and a chapter size of 126. Alpha Sigma saw a 133% jump in their recruitment numbers, going from 21 in 2019 to 49 in 2020. Chapman University, the Sigma Phi chapter out in Orange, California, is a mid-sized private institution with a business school enrollment of approximately 1,200 students and a chapter size of 32. Sigma Phi also doubled their numbers, having 6 pledges in the fall of 2019 and 12 in the fall 2020 term. And last but not least, the Xi Tau chapter at Syracuse University, which is a large private institution with a business school enrollment of about 1,600 students and a chapter size of 117. Xi Tau saw 71% increase in their number of pledges, having 14 during the fall of 2019 and 24 during the fall of 2020. So even though all of our chapters were balancing uncertainty of recruitment and how to manage classes and what the world is going to be like, and there will be some of that going into this year as we are hearing new and different things across the country, they were able to persevere. And remember, that large deficit from fall 2020 was cut in half during the spring term. And so we're really excited to share some thoughts and ways that you can work towards building up your recruitment trends as we transition to some virtual, hybrid, and some live recruiting, hopefully in the fall. So I'm going to chill out with the boring data and move on to the things that you really came here for. And we're going to begin with step 1 in the recruitment journey, and that's communication. Communication is planning out what you're going to say, as well as when and where you're going to say it. When we talk about communication, we talk about passive forms of recruiting and getting ready to talk to potential recruits about Delta Sigma Pi, the organization as a whole, and your individual chapter. So let's start with what we call passive recruiting. Passive recruiting is providing potential recruits a glimpse of your chapter and our organization without ever talking to anyone. Passive recruitment can take many forms. Your social media accounts and websites are a form of passive recruiting. Having information at different orientations on your campus without members being available, and using email blasts, just some of those forms to passively recruit. So let's dig in a little bit to how to utilize these. Along with not only your chapter's website, it is important to make sure that your chapter is listed on the list of student clubs and organizations on your institution's student activities or student involvement sites. You want to make sure that these passive forms of recruiting are active and up to date. It's really tough for recruits to find you if the last time your website was updated was 2014, and then the contact listed has graduated. You want to make sure that your institution has the correct contact information, because new students are more likely to start there than your chapter website or social media. During orientation sessions and the beginning of school and freshman seminars, that is what the institution is going to drive you to. Okay. If you aren't sure how to get that updated contact information in student activities, or you can contact your student activities department and they can usually put you in the right place. They are usually the ones that run that. Next up, let's talk about your social media presence. Make sure to think through all of your handles and hashtags. While at Delta Sigma Pi, we might know that the Alpha Sigma chapter is at the University of Alabama, someone who is not a member of our organization likely won't. So using handles such as DSP or Delta Sigma Pi UA or Bama DSP are more likely to get traction from individuals who are not already members. At a minimum, use something similar in a hashtag when posting to attract new members. Okay, have something that is going to associate Delta Sigma Pi with the institution. Having a social media plan is also a good idea. Highlight your most recent initiates and their experiences. Highlight your professional and service events. Highlight your newest alumni and their life after college. Highlight something from the national fraternity. Highlight chapter accolades. Highlight recruitment events. That's a whole lot of highlighting. There's a lot of different things that you can put out there in your social media plan. Don't forget to utilize your hashtags effectively. Hashtag class of 2025 and hashtag class of 2024 will reach for your first and second year students. Of course, you're going to want to check and see what your institution is actually using. If there are hashtags such as Welcome Week or something that your individual campus is utilizing for their class of 2025, class of 2024, you want to kind of jump in on those so that those students can find you a little bit more easily. My last thought when it comes to your social media is think about using a management system to post on your accounts. You can pre-plan when and where your posts are going to show up. There's a number of free resources out there. One that I have used a couple of times is called Hootsuite. There are a number of other ones out there where you can have timed out posts and get them all set so that once you get into your recruitment process, you know that those are going to be posted on your behalf by that social media account. Okay. So let's move into some of the orientation sessions. Some institutions are going to host informational fairs for students as their new student orientation. That is simply an opportunity to showcase the organizations without students being there. This is an opportunity for your chapter to be creative and stand out. Utilize that space with, those trifold bulletin boards out of cardboard, or, nicer ones that you get online with pictures and recruitment schedules and different things that you can highlight your chapter's accomplishments and activities. Think about this is going to be key. Think about your target audience for these types of orientations as the parents and guardians rather than the students. They can be your biggest allies. Ask your parents or guardians what it is that they would want to see from a student organization so that they will encourage their student to consider joining this organization. They are going to be, you can get those parents to be your advocates and be on your side for their student to join right off the bat, that's going to be a huge advantage for you. Make sure that there is something tangible for them to take away. Because if you remember when you went to your orientations or tours or anything like that, I know my parents 20 years ago, they took anything and everything that was available to them. All right. They're going to give it to their student, even if their student has zero interest in it. The parent still has it. make sure that you are checking with whoever is organizing those orientations or those fairs, what is permissible for you to have at that table. Email blasts. I want to talk a little bit about this. I know we get you all get tons of email from us. You get tons of email from your institution. You are tired of email, but I do want to, they can still be effective. There may be opportunities for you all to get messages out to potential recruits prior to the school year starting, or even right at the beginning. It's never going to hurt to ask. There may be opportunities through your dean's office or your chapter advisor. Find out if you can potentially drill down the students who you are sending your message to those who are only in qualified programs. So that listing of programs that are available to be members of Delta Sigma Pi. Even if you can't get it drilled down that far, even getting messages out to all business and or economic students can work as well. Please keep in mind how many emails that you personally open, and think about that when you are planning what your email is going to say. Why did you open this particular email versus a different email? Is it some type of catchy yet appropriate subject line? And I would also recommend that you only have enough information to fit on a phone screen, or maybe just one thumb up, because after that point, if you think about it yourself, you're probably not looking at much more than that either. So keep in mind in being concise and getting your point across to those individuals as they are starting to think about different opportunities that they have to join the fraternity. And then the last piece that I want to hit on here for potential recruits and this passive recruiting is virtual backgrounds. We all learned a lot over the last year about our own learning styles. Some of the online work may have suited us well, and we may take more online classes. Don't miss out on the opportunity to sell Delta Sigma Pi behind you. Online classes are still going to be a thing. We know that. And if your chapter is utilizing common virtual backgrounds, and there are many of you in the same class, non-members of that same online class might feel like they're missing out if they see all of these Delta Sig backgrounds and they're not a part of it. Okay, so make sure again that you're mindful of what will be recognizable to non-members. Using the letters, and even more, the name Delta Sigma Pi spelled out is likely to be more recognizable than using images of the crest or the badge. Okay, craft your message through all of these different pieces, even in the virtual backgrounds. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to you and your small group facilitators here in just a second. As you are heading in there, don't forget to have, again, your handout available, okay? We want you to utilize this. It was created to be used interactively with this program and mostly with the small group portions of this curriculum. You'll do some brief introductions with your facilitator and your groups, and we'll process through some of the additional material. Please share some of your successes and challenges, as well as how you have overcome. Ask yourselves, what are the resources you have to reach potential recruits without any of your members actually ever meeting them? For those resources that we have discussed, where can you actually access those? Remember, this section of the program is focused on reaching and communicating with potential recruits without actually meeting them. This is the passive recruitment portion of your plan. And again, if your small group facilitator kind of says, pause, hold on to that thought, it's because you are moving into that next phase and thinking about what is going to be next. How are we going to talk with these people? That's going to come in our next phase in communication. And so I am going to randomly assign breakout rooms for each of you. And it looks like we're going to have 7 to 8 participants in each room. And just bear with me for 1 second as I manage your facilitators. And you should be ready to go off in there right now. Many institutions will have some type of ceremonial opening to their academic year. Typically, it's a state of the institution address by the president, pep bands, speech from a high-ranking student, such as a student government president. Some individual departments may have these convocations or orientations as well. Be there. Be there in droves. Show your Delta Sig pride, especially if it's a business convocation. If there's an opportunity for your members to volunteer at these and in a role such as being an usher, helping people find seats, again, it's going to be a helping opportunity. It is simply exposing these funny looking letters to potential recruits. Okay. The more they see it, the more it gets ingrained. All institutions are going to have some form of welcome week. These are typically going to be carnivals, ice cream socials, performers like magicians or mentalists, tours of the campus, game shows, novelties like the waxed hands. Who doesn't have some type of novelty in their room from a first year orientation? This list is going to go on and on and on of what is going to happen. Be there and have fun. Show potential recruits how much fun you have as brothers. And if you get up on that inflatable jousting platform with someone you don't know, maybe you let them win. It may be your chapter's president one day. That student you just raced in the inflatable obstacle course may ask you about the fraternal organization you're a part of because you have it on your chest, on a t-shirt or whatever. That's the opening to start the conversation. Even if they aren't in a qualified major, their friends might be. So don't just blow them off. When you're at that magician or the mentalist show, sit with a few brothers, but strategically place yourselves throughout the space so that when they do some amazing trick or something that's really funny, you can nudge that person next to you and talk about that. And again, get your foot in the door with that individual. Chapter letter days are going to be the ultimate exposure. This is year-round exposure. Chapter letter days, wear them loudly and wear them proudly. Similar to some of the passive recruiting techniques we've already talked about, if students are surrounded in class by nothing but people wearing a shirt with a triangle, a funny looking E, and some arch, they might be interested in finding out more. Year-round recruiting is also going to include any campus leadership events. So many student organizations attend leadership sponsored by their student activities office to be a registered student organization, and maybe even career fairs. Stay in the faces of those students who may not have joined this term, but have shown some type of interest. Okay, so now we've covered passive recruiting and we've covered exposure. Now we have some opportunities to let the potential recruits come to you. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about these first three: student organization fairs, business club fairs, and other tabling opportunities. At the beginning of your term. For some campuses on the call, you may be affiliated with a fraternity and sorority life office, so there may also be an opportunity for a Meet the Greeks event. We're also going to spend a little bit of time on classroom talks. These four things are going to be the primary campus events that many chapters are going to rely on to jumpstart their recruitment process. And so my first question to all of you is, do you know how to access these opportunities? If not, again, I would start with your student activities office. They are typically your best resource for having a table at the student organization fair and securing other tabling opportunities. For business specific organization fairs and or tabling in your School of Business or Economics, you might want to check with your chapter advisor or the dean's office. Classroom talks, typically check with the faculty member, and Delta Sig faculty are usually going to be helpful in this area, as they hopefully will want to promote an organization that they're also a member of. So let's start with these organization fairs and look at all those tables. Some of you have them inside, some of you have them outdoors. Hopefully it doesn't rain. It is a great opportunity to meet a lot of different people. Because there are so many people, you only have a couple of cracks at it to get a potential recruit to your first or your next recruitment event. Think about the 30-second elevator pitch. Everyone should have something similar that's going to provide that potential recruit with information about what the organization is, events they're going to hold, who's eligible, and when they will be recruiting. The chapter should also have something tangible that the potential can walk away with, having all that same information, because they're stopping or they're being stopped at a number of different tables that interests them. Having one-pagers, which are one sheet of paper with basic information about your chapter, maybe some what the pledging fees are, your dues, your chapter meetings, recruitment dates, all of those types of things. Maybe it's a quarter page, or maybe it's a business card with a QR code that they can go and get all of that information. We're going to hit on what type of information is valuable in just a few minutes. But if you have some ways or some giveaways, that's something for them to remember talking to you as well. And if they're carrying it around, again, we go back to that exposure piece. They may or may not be eligible, but they're carrying around that Delta Sigma Pi cup and other people are seeing it. I do have one big reminder for you, and this is really important for these organization fairs. The organization fair is there for you to attract new members to your organization, to your chapter. It's not beneficial to you if members who are at the space keep talking with other members and catching up from the last 18 months. I know it's exciting to see everyone. We haven't seen everybody in person in so long. However, if you huddle up and block all of the information on your table or ignore the potential recruit, that's not going to help. So I want to talk a little bit about some best practices for these fairs. How many times have you gone to one of these fairs and the individuals are just sitting behind the table and likely on their phones? Being behind the table is creating a barrier between you and the potential recruit. And sitting makes it seem as if you're just there so you don't get fined. So with many student organizations at these fair, that distance of you sitting on the back side of the table and the potential recruit standing on the front side of the table may make it difficult to hear and have an actual conversation. So my recommendation, if you're able, ditch the chairs. Don't even give yourselves the opportunity to be tempted to sit behind that table. Get in front of it off to the sides so you're not blocking the hard work you put in setting it up. Slide those trifold boards or those banners, all those stand-up information where the chairs were. Have some pictures, awards, tangible items for those potential recruits to take away. Have your recruitment schedule somewhere that at a minimum, a potential recruit can just take their phone and take a picture of it and they can refer back to it later. Have it right there visible for them. Being out in front of that table is going to provide a better opportunity for you to connect and to have a conversation with potential recruit, and is going to be much more engaging in that conversation. Classroom talks is kind of a generic term that we use for those opportunities that you have at the beginning or the end of a class, with the faculty members' permission, of course, to do a quick 2 to 3 minute overview of the organization and your different recruitment activities. Not everyone loves doing these. People will walk in and say, I don't want to do public speaking. So we do have a couple of different options. We do recommend a couple of different options. The chapter can mobilize those that are comfortable, if not in that particular class with potential recruits, to prepare and present to all the classes and qualified programs. So you may have 4, 5, 6 members of your chapter that love to get up in front of these classrooms. Even if they're not in that particular class, you might be able to get them to get them some time in front of the class to talk about the organization. Okay. For those that are not as comfortable with speaking in front of a group or engaged in an online class, consider creating a 2 to 3 minute promo video. This way, those that are less comfortable can stand up and say, my name is Tyler Havens, and I'm a member of Delta Sigma Pi, a professional business fraternity here on campus. I want to thank Professor Insert Name for the opportunity to introduce the Alpha Alpha chapter to everyone. I'm going to run a short promo video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to chat with me after class. Boom, press play. Okay, as simple as that. especially in the online classes. Again, think about your content and think about your why. Videos where members are predominantly riding around in dune buggies, skydiving, and or hanging out at the pool probably aren't a realistic picture of what your chapter does and accomplishes. Yes, those are going to spark interest, but are you actually selling your product, or are you misleading individuals? That might ultimately hurt your chapter's retention because it is not what they were expecting when they signed up. So we've talked a little bit about some of the basic opportunities to introduce the organization to potential recruits. Now we need to get them some more information about the chapter. There's a number of opportunities for you to meet potential recruits on their turf. That could be physically and or metaphorically. Follow up, follow up, follow up. That list of individuals who gave you their email addresses and phone numbers at the student organization fair, send them a personalized message. Thank them for stopping by your table. Provide them with information about your recruitment events. Don't just cut and paste a blanket or stock email or text message. Use their name. If you can remember something about the conversation that you had, add that in. Do this follow-up with every single recruitment event that you have. Thank them, either send them a thanks for coming or sorry we missed you, and let them know about the next event. With each message, add in something specific about your chapter that might add value to their interest, and have some type of question to learn more about what that potential pledge is looking for in their fraternal experience. You also have different members. Send these emails or texts. Not have it be the SVP, not have it be you, to every single recruit, every single potential pledge, every single time. Okay. This way your potential recruits are being exposed, or excuse me, potential pledges are being exposed to a number of different members who they may connect with. Following up is going to be a big, big part to them. The second piece of this is of going to them comes with planning out your recruitment process. Think about the spaces you're hosting recruitment events. If your institution has a living learning community, like I had mentioned previously, just for business students in a residence hall, see if you can host a meet and greet in the lounge area of that space. A nice part of that is collaborating with the RA, who will then be able to knock off one of their required programs from their plate. Being a former RA, it's not always fun doing programming. I was not the best at it. And if somebody came to me and said, hey, I want to do a program or a professional event in your space, great, I can check that off the boxes for my RA duties. You want to check and see if there are common spaces in the business building where you can say it, and then everyone instantly knows what you're talking about. Find out if there's ways to host events in there. Remember, especially for first-year students and in their first few weeks, they don't know where off-campus locations are and may be intimidating trying to find them. Keep your recruitment events on campus and be in places where first-year students will know what you're talking about. That's the physical part of going to them. The metaphorical part of going to them is using some of that follow-up information you've obtained to create some recruitment activities. It's also doing what we do best, professional and service events. Our members join because they want value added to their experience and have an opportunity to land that dream internship or job. Let's show them how being a member of Delta Sigma Pi can assist them in that endeavor. Plan a professional event for part of your recruitment program. Open it up to anyone who may be interested. Have faculty plug it for you. If you can host it in the living learning community space, that's even better. This is who we are, and this is what we do. You are providing them a glimpse of what being a member of your chapter is like. Do the same with service events and invite potential pledges to participate with you. This is going to strike a chord with some, especially since our purpose is to promote closer affiliation between the commercial world and students of commerce, and to further a higher standard of commercial ethics and culture and civic and commercial welfare of the community. I hope everybody understands what I'm talking about there at this point. And similar to an RA, by hosting a professional event and or service event as part of your recruitment process, you can check that off your list for your CMP credit. The biggest thing about connecting with potential recruits is being transparent. Knowing what our obligations for pledging in full membership are will help you retain those members right from the start. Provide them information about the logistics in written form. Again, not just as a pledge, but also as an initiated member. Get to know them through those verbal connections, those interactive connections. Who are they as an individual? What do they want to gain from this experience? What can you as a recruiter see in the individual that will benefit the chapter? Remember to talk about the benefits of being a member of Delta Sigma Pi, such as our ongoing leadership opportunities with lead programming, webinars, scholarships, etc. And then why being a member of your chapter specifically will benefit them. What does your chapter do that is a cut above the rest? Try not to use buzzwords like if a potential recruit asks you, why did you join? Or what have you gotten out of it? Don't simply say brotherhood. Help them understand what that looks like and what it means to you and the chapters as a whole. On your screen, you can see a number of different ways of being transparent that you can do in written form and then also interactively and verbally. Learn about these things with the potential pledges throughout your recruitment process. Make sure that others in your chapter are interacting with these individuals that may become members of the chapter. It's also going to be beneficial for when discussing pledges and deciding on big brothers, the number of members of your chapter who have interacted and can understand and know what those individuals are looking for in the experience. I'm going to send you off into your small breakout rooms again here in just a few minutes. But as you're heading there, don't forget to have your handout accessible. Hopefully you've been using it throughout the program and it's been helpful to you. When you are thinking about, when you're discussing in your groups, think about some of the opportunities we've already talked about and what other opportunities do you have to connect with potential pledges? Think strategically about planning your recruitment process and what connections you will make. Consider some of those benefits that come exclusively with being a member of Delta Sigma Pi, like our lead events, our Grand Chapter Congress coming up here at the end of the week. Also, the number of partnerships and sponsorships that we have available to them, the connections that you and your chapter have to local businesses and local companies for internships and jobs. What is going to set Delta Sigma Pi fraternity apart from the Economics and Finance Club or the Student Programming Board if individuals have that interest? Again, remember that this section of the program is focused on, and this section of recruitment is focused on those first and follow-up interactions with potential pledges. I'm going to open up your breakout rooms here in just a second. Again, you are going back with the same group that you were with previously, and we will see you again to wrap up here in just a little bit. All right, everyone, here we go. This is it. We are in the home stretch. The work has been done. You've laid all the groundwork. You've done all the pre-work. You've laid the groundwork leading up to this last C, commitment. This works in two ways. It is not just getting the recruit to commit to being a pledge, but it is also the commitment by you and the chapter to deliver on what you sold during the recruitment process. And man, that's a big ask. Again, as we've laid out some of these pieces, being transparent, being genuine, being articulate with all of the expectations is going to be a big part of this, and you should be able to land that plane pretty easily. So, as we started this journey, we were recruiting passively. We started actively recruiting through fairs and follow-up. Now we're going to land the plane. We're going to get that commitment from that potential pledge. So how are we going to do that? At this point in your recruitment process, you should have members who have built relationships with all of the recruits, and you know who these recruits are because you've been tracking these interactions. You know which members have met with who, you know which members have gotten some insight about the potential pledges. You have tracked that through your follow-up. Now it's time to use all that information that you've been gathering. Toward the end of the recruitment process, it is important to sell, sell, sell. Use the information that you have gathered from the recruit to talk independently with them about how joining the chapter will fill the experience they have expressed they are looking for, not just professionally, but also socially. Hopefully you're not just tracking name, hometown, major, career aspirations, but also things like their personal hobbies and interests and their passions. What skill sets can further be developed by joining your chapter that they have expressed an interest in furthering their development? Also, discuss what potential you see in them as a member of the chapter. There's a reason you've kept in contact with these individuals. It's not just about being a number. How do you see their fit with the chapter? How do their personal hobbies, interests, and passions be incorporated into chapter activity and need? Spending time learning about these things about an individual can also expose you to needs within the chapter you weren't aware that you needed. If they have an interest in marketing, perhaps they're your next senior vice president. If they're looking to be a CPA, perhaps they're your next vice president of finance. If they're planning on being an RA, perhaps that's a future president. If they have an interest in graphic design, perhaps they are working with a team creating materials for your corporate sponsorships. Finding ways to weave their personal interests shows them that you've been listening, that you see the fit, you see the need, that they are going to bring value to the organization, and you are going to bring the organization, and the chapter is going to bring value to them. Lastly, ask what makes them hesitant. That's an okay question to ask. If you were to offer them an invitation to join right here and now, what would they say? If they say no, what is it that's making them hesitant to say yes? Have that conversation. You may have the ability to ease their hesitation with options that you have to offer. For example, a potential pledge is concerned with paying pledge fees all at one time. Perhaps your chapter has an installment plan that they can pay over the course of a 4 to 5 week program. They're concerned about the time involved because they also have to work. Talk about other members who work and how the chapter accommodates them. And you will explore pledge education meeting times with the entire group to find a common time for everyone to meet. Also, that their fraternity activity during a pledge education program is not going to exceed 6 hours in a week. Sometimes we can accommodate their concerns. A potential pledge is looking for an experience where they can gain, if a potential pledge is looking for an experience where they can gain access to alcohol under the legal drinking age to consume, that's not an experience that we can provide. It violates our risk management policy, and you can share that policy with them. That could actually lead to another conversation about what can be provided and change the outlook of that potential pledge. We're going to go one more time to your small groups. That was just a quick piece on the commitment. Hopefully there's not a whole lot of extra work that you're going to have to do. As I said, we're going to send you off into the small breakout rooms one more time and tie this all together. As you're heading there, again, please use that handout. I hope it's been helpful for you throughout this entire program. Use your small group facilitator and each other to develop your recruitment plans. That handout has monthly calendars so that you may start to pencil in dates and events. I've enjoyed my time with you all today, and I hope that you have found some of this information to be new and helpful. If you have questions or thoughts, please feel free to reach out to your small group facilitators or myself. You can also get any of us by emailing hub@dsp.org. Following your final group session, we are going to leave the Zoom open for any additional networking opportunities. And so at this point, I'm going to send you one more time to your small groups and get those calendars out and start making plans, talking about your different recruitment events and how that's going to look for you leading up into your fall's classes. I wish you all good luck in your recruitment and look forward to seeing some of your names and potentially some of your faces during Grand Chapter Congress over the course of the next couple of weeks. Thank you all for joining. Again, this program will be available on dsp.org within the next week or so. So off to your small groups. Thanks so much.